let's get started, shall we? Marie, give me a thumbs up for sound. Thank you, madam. Okay, look, my sign, it's still hanging in there. I don't know how. I haven't ripped it up yet. But this sign's been with us since the end of March. Dude, March, April, May, June, July. 4 full months now we've been doing this. And a little update. As you know, in Ohio now, we all still have the, by the way, this is me killing time to make sure other people can get logged in before we get started. As you know, in Ohio now, we have the color-coded system, and Union County is a level red, which means cases are increasing. It means a lot of different things. Hospitalizations are increasing. People seeking treatment for COVID, that's increasing. So as long as we're in a level red, we're going to keep the studio closed. If we can get back down to sustained yellow or orange, we'll actually ponder opening the studio back up. Smaller classes, a lot of distancing. But as I've said, I'm going to continue to do this. Even when we do go live back in the studio, I'll still be able to video and do live, do Zoom. So that'll be fun for those of you that still want to stay home, stay safe, because we know this is going to go on for some time. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about, check out the chat feature. I typed in a couple links where you can donate to the studio. Thank you so much for those of you that donate. I really appreciate it. Y'all are still helping me pay rent to reserve my space. So studio's still there. It'll be there when this is all said and done. Thanks to you guys. So I do appreciate that. Also, the bulldog is all of a sudden like, hey. I think she just woke up. Sorry. There's also a list of supplies that you need for the night. When we talk about paint for tonight, it's all negotiable, right? As long as you have, hang on, let me address this. Gertrude, what's up? Come on. There's nothing happening. There you go. Nothing going on, okay? Okay, sorry about that. I pulled the door blind, and now that she can't see out, she's convinced there are marauders out there. Okay, so I have listed out the paint, everything that you need for tonight in the chat feature. Again, it's all negotiable. As long as you have white, blue, some kind of brown, you'll be fine. I listed in the supply list yellow ochre, which is also called raw sienna. It's this really baby poo yellow color. That's negotiable too. If you don't have it, don't worry. As long as you have some kind of brown that we can mix for white to get the color of sand you want, okay? So, and then think about what color your flips are gonna be. So like I said earlier, for those of you that are just joining us, the inspiration painting that I found on Pinterest, it's horizontal, it's landscape. I've done this painting before, but I did it vertically. I think I'm gonna do this landscape tonight. That way I have room for my flips, my husband's flips, and my bulldog's paw prints right in the middle, because we are, that's our family. And then I'll do some little chicken tracks on the side, I think, to represent all my chicks. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take my inspiration painting. Let's talk a little bit about this. This is different than the painting, the inspiration painting that I showed to advertise for this class. The difference is the inspiration painting, the water appears to be just blue. I have mixed in mine blue and a little bit of phthalo green, a little bit of that turquoisey green. All depends on where your water's at in your world and what color water it is. If you were like down outside of Destin, Florida, we know the water there is really like emerald green pretty. So think about that. And then my sand is very smooth. You don't see the list of supplies? Sorry, somebody just commented they don't see the list of supplies. Scroll all the way to the top because I did it right when we started. Okay. The sand on this one, I just used white and a little bit of brown, and it's very smooth. The inspiration picture, the sand is very, they've taken a sponge or a crumpled paper towel and given it a lot of texture. So we'll play with those things. And then of course I had to add a little critter to mine too, to the original. So I'm gonna set this to the side so we can reference it if we need. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go horizontal tonight. I'm gonna go landscape. I have a 16 by 20 stretched canvas. I will try to remind you to paint your edges as you go, okay? Because it always looks nice when your painting is wrapped all the way around. I'll try to remind you. I'm not always good at remembering, but I'll try to remember. Let's talk about brushes. So I see mom and pops, you don't see the list of supplies. Just stay with me, and I'm gonna just go through them here real quick. You need some kind of a big brush. I'm using my big oval wash brush for the background, for the water, maybe for the sand. I have some kind of a medium brush. I love my medium filbert. And then some kind of a pointy brush. Nothing real special tonight, nothing real specific. Just some different size brushes. I have paper towels to dry my brushes off on. I have a cup of water. Again, I like to bring it up. I like to use something heavy. An old coffee cup is lovely because you're much less likely to knock it over as opposed to a solo cup. So by this point, y'all have been joining me every week. I'm betting you guys all have your favorite cup now that you leave in your paint supplies. Old mason jar makes my heart happy. Oh, halfway full. You don't need to fill it to the top. It really just needs enough water in it to cover your bristles. And always cool or cold water, never warm or hot. Warm or hot is when you're cleaning your brushes in the sink, never in your cup, okay? And then extra supplies that I have, additional things. I have a big fat wash brush just because I love this brush. I think I talk about it every week. I've used it so much. It's soft, but it's still kind of bristly and it's kind of all splayed out. He's just one of my favorite brushes. So I'll use him probably for the background. Reminder, when you're not using your brushes, they live in your water cup. So I'm gonna pick all these guys up and put them in my water cup and leave them there, okay? I also have a pencil just for giggles. I might use this to trace my flips. I have a toothbrush. It's just something I keep in my paint supplies. It might be fun if you wanted to do a little splash where your water's coming in with a little bit of white, white splatter there. I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? I have it just in case. Paint pen always, because we know I'm crap at signing my name with a brush. So I always keep a paint pen just in case. Some other things I have tonight, I didn't put in the supply list, but if you have something, you might grab it. If you have a sponge, I like to keep a sponge in my supplies. This is just something I got from the like Hobby Lobby from the craft store. You can take the sponge and just tear it up and it'll give you this really cool rough surface you can do different things with. If you have a sponge that's very manufactured and it's very straight sides, for example, an old dish sponge, you can take this dish sponge. I don't want to use it the way it is because I'm going to get this pattern and this is very flat and I'll probably get this edge if I decide to paint with it. But what if I tear the back of it off, and now I just tore a hunk of it off. I have this straight manufactured side, but now I have this really cool rough side that's not going to really give me a pattern, or it'll be something fun to play with. So take an old dish sponge and tear it up. That'll be something fun to play with. This is just optional. Just thought I'd throw it out there. And then paint. So paint for tonight, you want to make sure you have plenty of white. You're going to want to make sure you have some kind of brown. I have both raw sienna, which in the Bob Ross world, he would refer to as yellow ochre. I also have raw or burnt umber. I have an umber, which is just like a chocolate brown. I have some blue for my water. It's hard to see those colors. I have some blue for my water, but I also have some phthalo green that I'm going to add into my water. And then yellow, because I'll need that for my flips later. So, okay. I just flipped my sponge in my paint. That happens. Okay, so I say we get started, shall we? Let's do this. So first things first, decide which direction you want your painting. Again, I'm going to leave mine horizontal tonight. I've done this painting before, but I did it vertically, right? I'm going to do this one horizontal. That way I have room for my husband's flips on this side, my flips on this side, and my bulldog footprints right in the middle. Okay. Now, if you're afraid you're not going to have room, I said it earlier, I'll go ahead and say it again. I have an old insole out of a shoe. I think this would be lovely to trace because it's nice and thin. If you can't get your whole shoe on there, which I'm not going to be able to, right? You can just use the edge of it and then flip it for the other side. Okay, so it'll look like the toes of our shoes are just peeking in there. Okay, whew, that's enough chitty chat. Let's get started. So again, remember, brushes and water cup when you're not using them, right? Anytime you get started, when you pick up a brush and you've not used it in a while, you're going to tap, tap, tap in the bottom of the cup, because if it's a new brush, it will have like a starch on it to keep it stiff. So you want to get that out of there. If you're using an old brush, it might have a little bit of paint left over. So I'm going to tap, tap, tap and soften that up a little, because this is an old brush I'm using. Okay, dry them off on your paper towel. And I'm going to start with my water at the top. And I'm going to go down, about halfway, maybe just shy of halfway with my water. And for my water, remember, anytime we take color, you're always going to go in the edge, never the middle. You don't want to mess the whole thing up. So in the edge, I'm going to take a big old chunk of white and a little blurb of blue right there in the edge. Blurb. Not mixing them. I'm going to let that happen on my canvas. And I'm going to go, a nice sweep back and forth. Now, make sure as you do this, you're using plenty of paint. You don't want to see any speckles. You don't want to see any canvas weave peeking through. So make sure you're using enough paint. And I really love that phthalo green. I'm going to add a little bit of that. It's up to you. If you don't have any, no worries. But I'm going to add a little bit in while this is wet. And the thing to remember, acrylic paint blends while it's wet. Once it's dry, it essentially turns to plastic. It will not blend. Okay? So whatever colors you're going to put in there, let's do it while that's wet. Oh, that's pretty. And edges. Oh, there it is. Get your edges. Almost forgot. And as we start painting tonight, this is my reminder to you to breathe. Don't hold it in. Big deep breath and exhale it out. Okay. This is our time of the week to just not think about a whole heck of a lot. Let it all go. And again, I'm going to go about halfway down, maybe just shy of halfway, because I know I need a lot of room down here for my toes, for my flips. Now you can paint and blend that and get it. If you continue to work it, it's going to turn into all the same shade of blue. I'm going to leave mine streaky. I'm going to try really hard not to blend it. What do I say? Blend it into oblivion. I'm going to try really hard not to blend it into oblivion because I want to be able to see those individual colors, the different shades of blue and shades of green. And I feel compelled to tell you guys I missed you all last week. I thought I needed a week off because I had a lot of stuff going on. I really missed this. So I'm glad we're all back here together tonight. Gertrude, what's up? Something got you upset tonight? Don't forget your edges. It's easier to paint them now than it is to try to match them up later. Oh, it just occurred to me. I know why my bulldog's barking, why Gertrude's barking. DAD is HOME. I just saw the alert come up on my phone that he just pulled in the driveway. She somehow knew that he was on his way. HOME. I can't say it because she'll lose her mind. Just like a child, we spell in front of them, right? So again, we're going to go about halfway down. About halfway. Hey, Marie, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. I had this weird alert that just came up on my phone that said can't connect. And I thought, oh, I'm talking to no one. So remember, as we do this, when the acrylic paint dries, it essentially turns to plastic. It's really important as you do this to get it the way you want it and then move on and don't jump around. If you continue to go back up in and jump around, you'll start to pick up half dry paint and it'll start to look curdled and weird. So get it the way you want it and then stop touching it. Move on. Okay. I just started to do that and realized that was happening to me. And I was like, oh, gotta move on. Gotta stop touching it. Okay, make sure you got all those edges and look at your painting in different angles, right? Move it forward, lean it back. Make sure you don't have any canvas weave speckles showing through. And I'm going to take this opportunity to get that edge. Now, my next step is to be done with that, rinse my brush out really good, and then I'm going to move on to sand down at the bottom. So I'm not too concerned about what that line looks like or if it's messy, because I'm going to cover it with like the foam where the wave brushes in. I'm going to cover that messy edge with that white foam. So I think I'm going to leave it. I'm taking, I said leave it and I just keep painting, right? I'm taking just a little bit of white paint on my brush, on that big brush, and I'm using it skinny ways. And we've talked before about that pendulum motion, right? Where if this were a pendulum, you would touch the canvas and let back up, and touch it and let back up, as opposed to putting your brush down and dragging it and lifting up. You're sweeping. So I have that little bit of white on there. I'm gonna use my brush skinny ways, and using that pendulum motion, I'm just gonna sweep a little bit of white in there. Sweep a little and move on and get out. And I like to do that now, because if it goes sideways and I'm like, ah, too much white, blend it back in with a little bit of blue, a little bit of green. But I like what that does. It adds a little more interest, getting those little white streaks in there. Makes my water a little more interesting. So let's take, I don't know, good 5 minutes. Finish up the top of that where the water is. Rinse out really, really good. And we'll come back and we'll work on sand. So it's 7:27. At 7:32, we'll come back together. Okay? Let's call it 7:35. Okay? Because once we're done with the sand, we're going to have to give everything a little time to dry. So a few extra minutes to give that water time to dry is not a bad thing. But don't go to your blow dryer yet. That's not necessary. Oh, and while you're all painting, I see you painting away. I almost treated this like a straw. I almost started sucking on my brush. That was weird. Sorry. While you're all with me, so next Friday, I don't know if you saw the post on Facebook, we're not going to do Saturday next week. We're going to do Friday night, because Friday is July 31st. And who knows? I see Marie pumping her fist. I was like, who knows what Friday is? Friday is Harry Potter's birthday. So we're going to do a little Harry Potter-ness next week. I haven't decided what the painting is yet. I think I have an idea. Envision with me, if you will, because if you're not into Harry Potter, I'm not judging, but if you're not into Harry Potter, I think you could do this painting and it wouldn't necessarily be Harry Potter. But for those of us that are Harry Potter, we can have fun with this. So envision, if you will, like a galaxy sky. The whole canvas is like galaxy. So we'll get to practice painting a galaxy. We'll get to practice flicking stars. We'll do like black silhouette at the bottom. So I'm thinking maybe black silhouette castle, maybe the Whomping Willow. And then to up it one more notch for Harry Potter, I think we're going to put the, what is it, the Deathly Hallows symbol right in the middle of it. The triangle, the wand. Oh, Marie, what's the circle? What's the circle stand for? I can't hear you. You have to type it. I'm trying to read your lips and I'm really bad at reading lips. Oh, why am I blanking out on the circle? Oh, the resurrection stone. Thank you. I feel like I just lost a little bit of cred because I forgot what the circle was. Sorry about that. But, and then we could practice our handwriting if we wanted to write always at the bottom of it. Oh, Heather, you can invite everybody. Heather just asked how many hundreds of people do you want to join in? The more the merrier. Let me, before you mention it there, let me get the picture up and the link and all the stuff so you can just share the link with the group, okay? Okay, so 5 minutes, it's 7:30 right now. 5 minutes, we'll move on. For our next step, you're gonna need clean white, some version of brown or ochre or raw sienna, not burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is too red. but your colors for your sand. And I'm actually, I know it seems early in the evening, but I'm going to go rinse out because I don't want any blue in my water. Oh, Heather, you need to share with us the link to the Harry Potter group in the chat. Okay, so 4 minutes, we'll move on. I'm going to go rinse out. Make sure you have clean water and some browns to play with for your sand, and a couple extra paper towels, clean paper towels, okay? Clean water, clean white, brown, clean paper towels. And 4 minutes, we'll be back. Oh my God, Heather, it's Harry Potter and running and walking? I'm in. Totally in. That's fantastic. You must share the link with us. I was just thinking, if you're not into Harry Potter, but you want to paint with us next, it's going to be Friday. I'll try to put out a couple reminders. It's not going to be Saturday, but I will record it so you can play on Saturday if that works for you by watching the recording. But it will be on Friday because that's Harry's birthday. But if you're not into Harry Potter, you could paint the galaxy sky with us, and you could put a little comment in there for Neowise that would kind of mark this occasion, this Neowise occasion. And then, oh, you could just put some trees down at the bottom. That would be lovely. So yeah, that'll be a fun painting. We'll talk all about Harry Potter, so we'll make y'all crazy if you're not into that. But you could totally do that painting and have it not be specifically Harry Potter. Okay, 2 minutes. Clean water. Yes, Jessica, we will start with a black canvas. Jessica just commented that she won't get on here with us till 7:30. So we will start a little bit later because we'll want to give everybody time to paint their canvas black. So you'll be right on time. Okay, 1 more minute. Clean water, clean white, some browns for your sand, couple clean paper towels, okay? Okay, it is 7:35. Let's move on and put our sand down there. So again, I'm not super concerned about how clean or messy this line is. I am going to stay away from it though. I'm not going to bring my sand up into there because I don't want to change the color of my sand. I don't want to make my sand like a mint green or a light baby blue color. That's part of the reason I cleaned my water out. Now there are a couple ways we can approach the sand. You can use your big brush if you want. So I have my big brush cleaned out. Think about, close your eyes with me for a minute. Think about what the sand looks like on your beach. Is it very tropical? Is it very white sand? If it is white sand, you still have to add a tiny bit of brown to it, tiny, tiny bit, or it's going to look like snow. You're not going to be able to see the foam of the water when we put on there. So even if it is a very tropical, very white sandy beach, you have to add a little tiny, tiny bit of brown or a tiny bit of this ochre color to mess that white up just a smidge. If you're staying in Ohio, your sand is going to be pretty, like if you're up around Lake Erie maybe, your sand is going to be pretty brown. So that's something to ponder. Is it smooth or is it a little rocky, a little chunky? So let me show you a couple different things. We're going to come right up to here, but we're not going to get into the blue. I'm going to always in the edge. So because I used the white when I did my water, because I used out of that side, I can now use out of this side and have clean white over here. So there's white, some brown, maybe a little of this yellow ochre color. Not sure. We'll see what that looks like. You can go very, very smooth. Oh, I need a lot more white. I want my beach to be whiter. Lot of white. You can use the brush and stay very smooth if you want. And look how I'm just coming up just to the edge. But where those two come together, there's a little gap and it's kind of a little messy. I'm not worried about it. I'll fix it. So again, I use white, a lot of white, a little brown, maybe a little bit of that yellow ochre color. You can attack your beach that way. You can, remember I tore up that sponge. If you have that kitchen sponge, I'm just tearing the bristly part of it off. Oh, because I want this rough backside. I only need half of it. What if I take that rough backside, not the smooth side, the rough backside, and I take some white, a little bit of brown, and I tackle it like this. Choo, choo, choo. Tap, tap, tap. What do you think? Does your sandy beach look like that? A little more texture. That's fun. Oh, I'm moving it all over the place. That's fun. All right. So this is giving me all kinds of fun texture. It looks a little more like sand, right? Not so smooth. If you don't have a sponge, you can accomplish the same thing with paper towel. So that's why I said grab a couple clean paper towels. And I'm actually going to try all these different things to see which one I like better. So I have a half a paper towel, fold it in half long ways, and then I'm just going to crumple it into the middle. And I've given myself a nice stomper. Really just wadded up a paper towel. I made it very technical and very official, but it's really just a wadded up paper towel. White, a little brown. I like a little bit of that ochre color. And tap, tap, tap. So let's cover that whole bottom with sand, whatever sand looks like in your world. And get right up to that edge of that water, but don't go into the water. So you can see I have a little gap between the water and the sand. I'm going to fix that with foam. Okay. Ooh, I love that. I have different shades of brown happening. I got a little golden color there. So let's take, I don't know, the next 15 minutes or so. Get that sand on there. Get all your edges. By the time we're done with this step, your whole painting should be covered. and covered and dry. So how about 8 o'clock? We'll come back together with our whole canvas covered and dry and clean white paint. Sound like a plan? So 8 o'clock, that gives us 20 minutes because we're going to need the time to get this dry. I'm pick this up because it's easier. Oh. Remember, your canvas is not glued into place, right? If you need to pick it up, move it around. If you're looking to up your game a little bit here, for my advanced friends, if you wanted to go a little darker in the corners, so a little darker down here, maybe along the bottom and up around this corner, that would add a little bit of extra depth to your painting. You don't have to, but it does add a little something extra. Leads your eye back into the middle if you get a little darker around the edges. So I hope y'all are doing well with this situation we're in. Everybody's staying healthy, staying well, staying away from people, doing our best to distance. I'm curious too. We've been talking about who has picked up a new quarantine routine. So I've been working build a fire pit. Manual labor seems to be what's getting me through my days right now because I normally have a desk job and or I paint. So for me to work out all my stress, manual labor has been doing it. So I've been hefting brick and soil, building my fire pit. I think my husband and I figured I moved 4.5 tons, literally 4.5 tons of stuff by wheelbarrow. Exhausted at the end of the day every day, but it felt so good, right? I can say that because I don't have to do that for a living. I would never make it if I had a job that was that physically demanding all the time, but it felt good. Got out of my head for a little while. So I'm curious, what's your new quarantine routine? Have you picked up a quarantine project? Let me know in the chat feature. I'm curious to hear. Bye. Is it wrong that beating the snot out of the canvas feels good tonight? Is that wrong? Probably shouldn't be hitting it that hard, I suppose. Okay. I'm going to go in and make sure, like I said, if you're feeling a little advanced this evening, a little darker around the bottom corner here and the bottom corner there and a little across the bottom. That will add a little bit of depth to your scene and will naturally lead your eye back in toward the middle. So I'm going to add just a little bit of dark down here along the bottom in this corner. And again, about 8 o'clock, we'll move on. So I'm going to finish this up and head to the blow dryer. Here we go. Well, I'm just reading your comments now. I just realized I had my back to the screen, so I didn't see you guys were commenting. Let's see. Oh, direct sales and painting, which I love that you come paint with me, by the way. Oh, making masks. Thank you for making masks. We need people like you. That makes my heart happy, Heather. Thank you. I see you, Tani. You'll catch up. No worries. So we did our water first, and then we're painting our sand at the bottom. I took a kitchen sponge and just tore it up to be able to tap, tap, tap to paint my sand. And we're going to move on at 8 o'clock. So it's about 11 minutes. Again, be careful, especially since you're catching up, Tani. Stay away from when you put the sand in. Leave a little baby gap there. Stay away from the water because you don't want your sand to turn mint green or baby blue. So I'm going to go rinse my stuff out. We will come back together at 8 o'clock. That gives you 11 minutes. You need a little bit of clean white paint to bridge this gap. And a big crazy brush or a paper towel or a clean sponge, because that's how we're going to tap, tap, tap the sea foam in there to bring those two together. So clean white, a tapping utensil, and a dry canvas. So about 11 minutes, about 8 o'clock. Clean white, tapping utensil, sponge or brush or whatever, paper towel, dry canvas, those three things. And I will see you back here in 10 minutes. Okay, again, about 8 minutes. So about 8 o'clock, we'll come back together. Clean white, tapping utensil, dry canvas. So I'm gonna go dry my canvas. So 8 o'clock, we'll move on. Okay, this is your 4-minute warning. We're going to move on at 8 o'clock. So your 4-minute warning, you need clean white, a stamping utensil, whether it's a poofy brush or a sponge or a crumpled up paper towel. So clean white, stamping utensil, and a dry canvas. So 4 minutes. At 8 o'clock, we'll move on. Oh, turtles and frogs. Turtles and frogs at the bottom would be awesome. I'm a frog girl. Did you know that, Mandy? Did you know I'm a frog girl? I don't even know how many paintings of frogs I have in my living room. As I look around, I'm like, did you say frogs? Because you know I'm a frog girl because you can see, but I don't think you can see. I think you and I are just on the same page. So let me count. How many frogs do I have in my living room? How many paintings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 frogs. I shouldn't say things because the one's quilling, but I have six frogs in my living room. One I painted and the rest are from other artists because I love when I travel to find small local studios and pick up artwork from local artists wherever we go. I don't travel that often, but when I do, that's something I love to do. So I have a frog. I have a frog sketch that looks like Sweeney Todd. It's a frog with a razor. My art collection is, shall we say, eclectic. Makes me happy. And art should do that, right? It should evoke an emotion. All my artwork here makes me super happy. As weird as it is, it makes my little heart happy. Okay. So 2 minutes. This is your 2-minute warning. Clean white, clean stamper utensil, dry canvas. 2 minutes. Okay, 1 more minute. Clean white, clean stamper, dry canvas. So I'm curious, Jessica and Kelly, is that Jessica or is that Kelly that had the shirt? I have to know, is it a childhood thing, like from way back, or is it like a current kind of thing? Homie G Froggy. And while you're letting me know the answer to that, I have to tell you, so when you were about 15, I love that. Okay, so my dad, I think this is where my frog situation came from. When I was a kid, I was water baby, lived in the water. I was born and raised in central Ohio, so we're pretty landlocked, right? Not a lot of water around. So mom and dad got me, because I was such a water baby, like a little 4-foot above ground pool. Set it up every year in the backyard, and that's where I lived, in that little pool. And because I don't know if you've noticed, I'm a redhead. My skin, I would get just scorching burnt every summer. And it turned into, I had to wear long sleeves in the pool because no amount of sunblock would cover me. And I had this shirt, it was a long sleeve shirt that we got shirts like at yard sales, garage sales, because of course the chlorine in the pool would just kill the shirts. They wouldn't last very long at all. But I had the shirt that I absolutely adored, and it said Freaky Frog on it, and had like this glitter, gaudy, glow in the dark frog on the front of it. And I love that shirt, and I wore it until it literally fell apart with all the chlorine in the pool. but Freaky Frog. And to this day, my dad still calls me Frog because of that shirt. So, and Daddy's Girl. So I absolutely love that. I love frogs. Makes me think of my dad. Okay, so enough of that. Let's move on, shall we? So the thing to remember, we're going to find your stamper utensil. I'm going to use this sponge, right? You could use just a crumpled up paper towel, just something that you're going to want to ... Remember the paint that we're using. If you got paint from the studio, more than likely the paint that you're using is student grade paint, which means it's transparent. The white is a little more solid, it's a little more opaque, but it still might take 2 coats to cover. So don't try to cover all in one swipe. Go ahead and go across, tap, tap, tap across with the white, right in through here. Give it a minute or so to dry, and then go back and do it again. If you try to get enough on there in one go round to cover to your liking, it's going to be too much paint. It's gonna get gloppy and messy. So I'm gonna take this sponge, tap, tap, tap in the white there. And I'm gonna come close so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna start right at that line where those two come together, because that's gonna be the heaviest. So I'm gonna tap, tap, tap right along there, right along that line. And then as I start to run out of paint, I'm gonna fade up and fade down. So start in the middle, and then I'm gonna fade up and fade down. So it's gonna be heaviest right there, and then fade up and fade down. If you're looking for a measurement, if you're using a 16 by 20 canvas, that is about as wide as my hand. If you're looking for a measurement, it's about 4 fingers wide. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go across, and then I'll come back to the beginning and I'll hit this middle part again, because if you look real close, you can still see behind those. You can still see that line there. So we'll go across, and then I'll come back and I'll hit that middle part again. So again, I'm starting right there in the middle on that line. That's where it's going to be heaviest. Go a little bit. And then as I start to run out of paint, I'm going to tap up a little to fade up, and tap down to fade down into the sand. I'll do that same way every time. Start right in the middle on that line, and then fade up and fade down. And I'm tapping with my sponge, but I'm occasionally turning it so I don't get a funny pattern. Do the same if you're using a paper towel, regardless of what you're using. Make sure you're turning it every now and then, because you'll start to get a weird little pattern. Whoop. Okay. And I'm going to give that a second to sit, a second to dry a little. And then I'm going to go back to the beginning and start again. Again, start right there where they come together. Fade up, fade down. And I know you guys have no idea what's going on other than this little square of space right here. But I have a bulldog right at my feet. She has the entire house, and yet right at my feet. Sweet feet. Because that's what they do, right? They got to be right there in action. Oh, we talked about painting the edges of our canvas. Are you going to get around to the left edge, maybe? A little foam out there. Maybe even a little over on the right edge. That way your painting wraps all the way around. I don't know, that's up to you. Flash is on the sofa chewing on his blanket. Nice. Yeah, she usually goes and hangs out in her kennel, but for whatever reason, she has to be right at my feet right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the beginning here. There we go. To the beginning. And start again to get, oh no, I got brown in my sponge. Struggles. The artist struggle is real. There we go. So let's take, I was gonna say 5 minutes, let's take 7 minutes because that would make it 8:15. And then we'll move on and we'll start talking about flips. I'm curious, is anybody gonna paint their feet and put just footprints on there? Something you could do. I'm not a fan of paint between my toes, but that is totally something you could do. If you do decide that's something you want to do, you might take this this outside with a garden hose, or have an old pair of socks you could throw right back on. So you could wipe your feet off with a paper towel and then throw some old socks back on so you don't get your painted feet on your floor. Okay, so I'm just going back and I'm hitting this line right here again. Just getting a little heavier in a couple places to camouflage that line back there where the water and the sand come together. And 6 minutes, so 8:15, we will come together and we'll talk about flips. Talk about sandals. We'll talk about puppy paw prints because I think that's where I'm going to start because I want Gertrude's paw prints to be right there in the middle. So then I can place my flips around it. Okay. All right. So 5 minutes, we'll move on. I'm going to go rinse my sponge out. I'm going to start thinking about sandal colors. Remember, because the paint we're using is student grade paint, it's going to be pretty transparent. You're going to need some clean white, regardless of what color you choose. If you're thinking about just doing footprints, oh, I'm looking, stand by. Oh, that Flash, sweet Flash. Oh, sweet baby. Thanks for sharing. If you're thinking about painting your feet, which you could, you're going to have to move fast because this paint dries really fast, right? So you'll get the biggest brush you have, wipe some paint on your feet, and then print them on there. So you'll want to make arrangements for that if that's something you're going to do. If you're going to put footprints on there, if you're going to paint your feet and put footprints on there, you want it to look like indents in the sand. So it's going to be your sand color, just a little bit darker. Maybe more than a little bit, but not straight brown. That might be too dark. But whatever color your sand is, just less white, because that's what it would look like naturally in the sand, right? Those imprints from your toes, from your foot. So, okay, I'm gonna go rinse out 3 minutes. We'll move on. If you're gonna do flips, if you're gonna paint flips, you might have a, oh, shells too. I need shells too. So if you need shells on there, you gotta go find your shells, because we have to have them to reference, right? Keep them safe out of paint zone, because you don't want to get paint on them. But you have to have them there to look at, so you can copy your shell and get it on your canvas. That would be lovely to have some down in the corners, a little stack of shells. That would be super cute. I know I had to. I'm really bad about coming up with things out of my brain and going, oh, I want to paint that, and just pulling it out of my brain. My brain doesn't work that way. I always have to have something to go by. So if you wanted to paint shells on there, I would either go find those shells so you can copy them, or Google pictures of shells to have some reference point. Hello, Anita. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I am recording this tonight, so you can find it on YouTube later. And next week, we will be Friday night, not Saturday night. We're going to do a little Harry Potter theme for Friday night, some kind of a galaxy painting. So I want to make sure you heard that. So another minute and a half, I'm going to go rinse out. We're going to come back and start working on whatever we put down there in the bottom. Okay. Okay, so we're going to get ready and move on. Think about what you want down there. I feel like everybody probably has a pretty good idea. When I think about what I'm going to put down there, my spatial awareness is not great, so I always have to keep that in my brain. Because my spatial awareness is not great, I will start in the middle and work my way left and work my way right from there. Because if I start here on this side and I start here with a couple pair of flips and then I start to go that direction, things will be all off balance. So even if if you decide the inspiration painting had the name across the top, what I would do is write it out on paper first, count it out, find the middle of my canvas and start there. So if I decide my last name is Jordan, if I decide I wanted to put the Jordans across there, I would write it out on paper separate, find the middle. So I think the R, the D would be the middle. Probably the R, because I would have a smaller the. So I'd find the middle. I would start with the R, and then D-A-N-S, and then go back to the R and work each letter backwards from there to make sure I have the middle to make sure things aren't off balance. So I'm not going to worry about that yet. I'm going to think about what's going to go on down here. So I'm going to start with my puppy footprints in the middle, and think about, are you going for actual life size? I think I am. That's why I went and got one of the insoles from my shoes. But because I'm going life size, I can't fit the whole thing on there. Well, I could, but it would be up into the water. So I think what I will probably do is have just my toes on the edge. So I'll have a set of toes here, and then a set of toes over here, and then my bulldog, her front paws right here in the middle. I'm gonna raise this up, I think. See if I can not knock this over. Nope, nope, back down it goes. I'm gonna knock it over. Okay. So because I'm doing bulldog footprints, they are just like people footprints, right? I need to make them look like just indents in the sand where she was. So I'm going to use my sand color and go a little bit darker. And this is a challenge because she is directly beneath me. It's as if she knows I'm painting her tonight. Okay, medium-ish brush, I think. I'm going to do her footprints first again because they need to be in the middle, and then I'm going to work on my flips. So let's see. Sand color, a little bit darker. Okay. And what does a bulldog footprint look like? It's kind of an upside down heart. Kind of a weird upside down heart / jelly bean. I don't even know what shape the pad is. One. And then, so again, I'm using my sand color, just a little bit darker. And she'll have a toe there. A toe there. Oops. Cute, cute, cute. Okay. Let me do the other one so then I can move on to flips. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. No footprints. To add a little something extra, I'm going to take my pointy brush with a little bit of that same color, that same sand color. I'm going to go a little bit darker right here at the bottom left. It's a little darker. This is one of those things that's very subtle that you probably can't even see, but when you put your footprint in the sand, it doesn't all, if this is her paw, it doesn't all land at the same time, right? It's going to be her foot and then her toes. So her heel part of her foot is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm doing just a little bit of a line right there along the bottom. Again, I'm sure it's something you can't see, but it makes a difference for me. Okay, done. So now let's move on to flips. So I'm going to hang this so I can get to the bottom. And again, because I'm going life size, oh, that is super crooked. because I'm going life size, I can't get the whole thing on there. So I'm just going to put the edges. So I'm going to put this on here and take my trusty pencil, trace it. Trying to be careful. Let's see. This one. And then I got to flip it this way. Right. Perfect. I'm sure that's really hard for you to see, but I can see it. I've just taken a pencil and traced my my insole. And then I'll do the same thing over here, and I think I'll move them up and in just a little bit so they appear to be a little bit bigger. Okay. This is me stepping over my bulldog to get to the other side. Here we go. Okay. So now I have to decide, again, the paint that we use is very transparent. So I have to decide what colors I'm going to use. Mine are going to be lime green because that's my color. And then my husband's are going to be, I think, blue because blue's his favorite color. Mine are going to be a nice bright lime green. So I'm going to want to put a white base under them. The lime green is going to be too transparent and you'll see the sand and the texture through it. So I'm going to give them a nice coat of white first. My husband's are going to be a deeper blue. So I have to make the decision. The two solids we have in our palette, the two opaques, are black and white. So do I want to put black under his? And then when I put the blue on top, it'll make them a lot deeper blue. As opposed to putting white down first and then having them be a lighter, brighter blue on top. I think I'm going to do white under mine, black under his, so we can see the difference. Okay. So I have just the outline trace. I'm just going to fill that in on my bigger brushes here. Giving it a nice coat of white to lay that color on top of. Here we go. Okay. That's good for mine. And then I'm going to go ahead and put black under his. Nice. Okay. So I have the base. Get back over to the other side here. Over the bulldog. Okay, so I have the base for my sandals. Again, I'm not going to have a white pair of flips and a black pair of flips. I need that solid opaque base underneath, because if I try to put just my lime green on this sand, you'll be able to see the lime green, or the sand and the texture through the paint. So I want to give a nice bright base, a nice solid base. Oh, Anita, I see your comment. Can we do earlier because you have a 7:30 class? I will take a poll on Facebook and see what people say. When I do Friday night classes at the studio, I do 6 o'clock. So I will put that out there as an option, because 6 o'clock would give you time to get most of the painting done before you have a 7:30 class. Okay. Okay, so while I'm letting those dry, I talked about the paw prints and how they're just indents in the sand, and part of the foot hits harder. The paw doesn't just thump down. Unless you're an old dog that I had once upon a time. He was a giant beast and he thumped everywhere he went, but he was a big dog. They touch and they roll, right? Just like our feet, they touch and they roll. So this part's going to be heavier. It's going to leave a bigger indent in the sand, maybe. So you want to go a little darker. Same thing with your flips, right? They're going to leave a little bit of an indent in the sand. So while I'm letting those dry, before I put my colors over top, I'm going to take my pointy brush with a little bit of, it's the sand color, but a little bit darker. And in the sand, along the edge of the heel part of the sandals, I'm going to do just a little bit of a line there. That is really hard to see. Let me get close. Stand by. Let me reload my brush. So I'm using the sand color a little bit darker, because I know this heel hit hard and then it's lighter as you lay your foot down. So this is going to have a bigger indent back here. So with my pointy brush, a real little line in the sand, ooh, right there, and then I'm going to start to press and get heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, like that. In the sand, not on the shoe. Do another one right here. So a little bit of a line, and then press a little heavier. Oh, creating that little bit of depth in the sand there. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over on the other side to the black ones. It's almost like being at the beach. I have this weird little gnat creature there. Weird little insects. Okay. There we go. So now before I put my colors on my flips, I want to make sure they're dry. I want to make sure that the base is dry, because if it's not and I try to put color over top of it, I will start to pick up half dry paint. So I want it to be completely dry, because I don't want any, it'll look like you have holes in your flips if your base coat isn't dry. So I'm going to take a few minutes and go to the blow dryer and dry my flips, and then come back and start putting color over top. You guys are all just working away. I look over there and everybody's so focused. Everybody's breathing, right? Everybody's taking a big deep breath. No, we're not breathing, Marie. We're done breathing tonight. Okay, good to know. Don't you pass out on me. Not funny, dude. Not funny. I was out working on the fire pit and forgot to eat and did one of those like swoons. I know, not good, right? Because we know I don't do heat, right? So I'm out in 90-degree heat. Forgot to eat. Oops. Okay, so blow dryer. I'm gonna go to my blow dryer and then come back and work on my flip colors. And we'll talk a little bit about those flip colors, giving a little bit of dimension, because if you look at a sandal, it's going to be naturally darker in the middle where your foot sits down, and it's going to be a little lighter out around the edge where your flip kind of either rolls up or isn't as indented from your foot. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but I want to go dry this. I'll be right back. Couple minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm back. I got my base coat dry. I'm gonna go ahead and mix my lime color. So I'm gonna continue to use my big brush for now, because I'm still just putting base color on there. So my lime color is white, clean white, yellow, and a little bit of that green. That's phthalo green. Oh, look at that color. Love that. So what color are your flips? What color makes you happy? And as I fill these in, I'm going around, I'm following the contour of my flip. Up and around. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and fill the other one in, and then I'm gonna show you something. So I'm just going up and around. A lot of painting is knowing how to, like which direction to go, right? How you move your brush. It's not necessarily just about color, because if I were to stop and to paint these flips side to side, they'd look kind of weird. So I'm following the contour of the outside edge of those flips. Always makes me think about like painting a coffee cup or a glass. We always paint like a gentle smile to get the curve of that cup. That's the way we move our brush. This is the same. I'm going up and around to get that curve of my flip. Now, these are still, my color here is still wet. I have that color on my brush. I'm going to add just a little more white to it. And again, I talked about the inside of the flip is darker where your foot pushes. Conversely, the outside is a little whiter. So I still have that mess on my brush. I've added a tiny bit of white. And I'm going to, while that's wet, I'm going to go up and around that outside edge. Blending in. It's really subtle, but I'm blending in a little bit lighter around that edge. So now the inside of my shoe will appear a little darker. And the outside edge will appear a little lighter. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse out and head to the other side. See if I can get a lovely deep blue on there for my husband's slips. Ooh. How dark those blue flips are with the black underneath. That's lovely. So here. And following the contour. These are so dark. I'm going to add a tiny, 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 tiny bit of white. Get that nice bright outside edge. Okay. All right. Give that a minute to dry, and then I'm going to put the straps on. While I'm waiting on that to dry, I'm going to map out what I'm going to put across the top. So I think I'm going to put my last name. I think I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I love these stretched canvases because you can go to the craft supply section of your store or your craft store and find a metal wreath hanger and bend it so it goes up under this frame, and then you can hang this over your door. So I think this will be really cute for the rest of summer through Labor Day if I put our last name across the top of it in white, I think. So I'll have the Jordans across the top. So I have in my brain what I want that to look like. I'm going to write it out and show you how I'll tackle that to try to get it as close to the middle as possible. So I'm going to take a piece of scratch paper here. Write out what I want that to look like. Okay, so I very much feel like mine's going to look like that, the Jordans. So now I'm going to grab my scissors. You can just write it on there if you want, but again, my spatial awareness is really not good. So I have to do everything I can to help myself here. So I'm cutting this right there, the edge of my S. Right here at the edge of my T. When I was a kid, I would write my name on my paper, like kindergarten, first grade, because my first name is SHAWNNA. I always ran out of room, so it would be SHAWN dash, and then but down below it NA. Spatial awareness has never been great. So I cut it right at the edge of my words, right? And then I'm gonna fold it in half so I can find the middle. I know this may seem juvenile, but that's what helps me. So now I know the edge is right there at the end of my R before I get to my D. So now if I find the middle of my canvas, I know right at the middle, if I go a little to the left, that's where my R is going to be. Because if I know the Jordan, the D is technically the middle, but if I put the D in the middle, my whole thing is going to be a little further to the left. Anyway, so that's how I would approach that. I hope that was helpful. So while I'm letting my flips dry, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think I'm going to go ahead and write the Jordans across there, just the way I have it here. And never hurts to sketch with a pencil first. If you do sketch with the pencil, sketch really, really lightly. These canvases are just that. They're just canvas. It's really easy to poke through if you're not careful to poke through it with a pencil. I might just go in with paint. If you're going to just paint it, and if you're painting it with white, regardless of the color, you're going to want to thin your paint down a little bit with a little bit of water. Because I'm using white, I'm going to go get clean water, because whatever color my water is, it's going to change the color of my white paint for my letters. So I'm going to make sure my water's clean. I'm going to get some clean white paint, and this is all while I'm letting those flips dry. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write my words across there, write Jordan's across there. And I determined the end of my R is the middle. I'm not going to use you can use a pointy brush if you want. I'm actually going to use my my filbert brush, because I want to be able to see it. I want to make sure my letters are thick enough that you can see it. And I apologize, but for me to do this, I have to get in front of the camera here. Again, right there's my middle. I'm going to use just a damp brush first. to make sure I've got what I want here. Okay. So I did it with just a wet brush first. Now I'm going to water that white paint down a little, just a little bit. It'll help it flow easier. So you'll see I started in the middle, went to the right, and then I'll back up one letter at a time this way. Okay, the Jordan. Just going back over it a little heavier, cleaning it up a little bit. It's one of those things, writing is always hard for me because I always feel like it looks messy. This would be a lot cleaner if I used a paint pen, but it would take away from the look of it. I kind of need it to be a little messy because it's in the water. So I'm going to be okay with it. Sometimes if we use a paint pen for writing like this, it gets almost too perfect. I know that seems like it shouldn't be a bad thing, but it kind of is. This, I like that my letters are a little messy because it goes with the flow of the water. It goes with what I'm doing here. I'm gonna accentuate the J there a little. Smaller brush for my the. So all this is while I'm letting my flips dry, because then the last thing I need to do is put my, decide if I want a design in my flips, if I want polka dots or what I want to do. And then I need to put my, my foot straps on my flips. So you have to decide, what do your foot straps look like? Are they the ones that go between your toes and they look like kind of a wishbone? Or are they strappy like sandals? I don't know. They're your flips, right? So ponder that as I finish up my writing here. And while we're all still here painting and working, I just want to say thank you all for continuing to come and paint with me. It makes my heart happy as we all work through this weird time. I started saying weird because unprecedented, that word has been used up, and it doesn't even explain it anymore, right? Unprecedented doesn't even begin to cover what we're all going through. Okay. Oh, that's fun. That'll be fun on my front door. And it's funny because people will see it and go, the Jordans. Oh, you mean Shauna Sue's house? Okay, so I think I'm going to leave my flips the way they are. I'm going to leave them solid. I don't think I want to do polka dots or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and put my little toe straps on there, and they do kind of look like wishbones. They have this shape. You need to remember though that it's not in the middle. It has to be toward the inside. Does that make sense? So find the middle, and then I have to move toward the inside a little bit. I'm going to sketch mine on there in white and then decide what color I'm going to use. So I have my pointy brush. And again, because it goes between my big toe and the rest of my toes, it's not going to be in the middle. I'm going to find the middle, and I'm going to go inside a little bit. So it's going to start there. Let me map this one out too. So find the middle and go in a little. So that's where they're going to start. And then it's like a wishbone. So it's going to point down and then curve out. Back up here, come straight down and curve out. Thicken that up a little bit. Might leave that white. I'm not sure. Let's see. So again, wishbone. So come straight down and curve out to the edge. Down and curve out to the edge. Okay. So I think I want to paint these. I want these to be darker green. Not sure. Ooh, stripy. That's what I want. Stripy on those. So you can make these as fancy as you want, as detailed as you want, as plain as you want, up to you. I think I'm going to go ahead and paint my husband's white and make his a really light blue, because that'll stand out nicely on those dark flips. Let's paint his light blue. So I'm going in the middle, and I'm going inside a little bit. He needs bigger straps on his sandals, a little bigger for his bigger feet. And I do believe with that, I'm going to call this done. I'm going to do one more little thing in Gertrude's paw prints here. I think I'm going to go, if I have a dark side of her paw prints, I think I'm going to go back to that sandy color and go a little bit whiter. Because if I have a dark side, I always like to have a light side. So I'm going to that sand color. And I want to add, I usually think dark is bottom left, light is then conversely top and right. and add, I'm accentuating, I know it's hard to see. Let me get closer. I'm accentuating that just a little bit. So if dark is bottom and left, light is top and right. Zerp, zerp, zerp. There we go. And I think with that, I'm going to call it done. Oh, chicken footprint. I almost forgot about my chicken footprint. Oh my goodness. That would have been devastating. Some little chicken tracks on there. So just like Gertrude's footprints, I need to use sand and go just a little bit darker. Let's see, where do I want those? Do I want them right here across the top? I think I do. Okay, I gotta think. What does a chicken print look like? I think so. So straight line. Uh-huh. Okay. Gotta have chicken prints. Chicken prints. All right. That makes me happy. It's the little things, isn't it? All right. Well, I'm going to call that done. I always like to point out signing it. So when you sign your painting, always on the bottom left or bottom right. I shouldn't say always because I don't like absolutes, but usually bottom right, bottom left. That's why I always have again, always, absolute. I have a paint pen because I'm much better at signing with the paint pen than I am with a brush. So I'm going to sign down here in the corner in my shoe, maybe in the sand. And you have to decide what your signature is. Mine is always SS, blah, blah, blah. And then I like to do a little tick and a 20, so I know it was year 2020. Usually bottom left, bottom right. You can sign on the back. If you do sign on the back, never ever here. Always out here on the edge if you want to sign with a marker on the back. Okay. If you sign here, it could bleed through, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to call that done. A couple reminders. So it's 9:01. I'll give you all the opportunity to unmute yourselves here in a minute. We'll call this done at 9:05. So by 10:05, please private message me your selfie with your painting, and I will collage those together at 10:05. Thank you all so much for everyone that donated. Again, you guys are what's keeping the studio open through all this weirdness. I do appreciate that. I mentioned it in the beginning, I'll mention it again. People have been asking when the studio is going to reopen because we have color codes in Ohio now. I'm hoping if we can have sustained yellow-orange in Union County, then we'll start to talk about reopening the studio space. But as long as we're red or higher, hopefully we don't go purple, that means we're seeing steady increases in cases, hospitalizations, all kinds of other things. And I don't feel safe opening the studio as long as that's happening. So if we can get our levels back down a little, we'll talk about opening the studio. But even when we do, we'll still do this. So class for next week, it's going to be on Friday. I will put a poll out there to see what works for everyone, whether it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock. The most votes wins. And it will definitely be Friday though, and it'll be recorded. So if you can't make the time, the video will be up so you can enjoy it Saturday if that's what works for you. A little Harry Potter theme. Should be fun. So everybody get your wizardry stuff together. And that's what I know. All right. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I will go in and give you the opportunity to unmute yourself if you want to stay and chat for a little bit. Let's see, let me get in here. Little that. Ooh, that was a bigger struggle than I intended. Trying to.
Hi, Shauna.
Hello, Anita. How are you?
I just fine. Actually, I love coming here because of you and all the other participants. You're all so cheerful and happy, you know. So
oh, that's
I
so
love it.
How are things for you, Anita? Because you're in Maryland, yes?
Yeah, things are bad. The cases are rising. Lots of deaths. So actually, we are back. What happened? Oh, it's your hand. I thought you had a sling. No, thank God.
No, I was just holding my
Okay,
arm.
Yeah, how come you're changing from Saturday to Friday?
Next week it's just Friday because it's Harry Potter's birthday.
Oh, only for next week. Okay.
Just for next week, yeah.
Okay,
just
that's
for next
great.
week.
Yeah, because the thing is, I would love to be there. If you can, let's see what the polls say, because majority wins, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a poll and see. I'm always listening to see what people say. So if people want to go earlier or later, I don't care. I'll paint whenever. But I will record it and make sure and have it posted. So if you want to do it Saturday, you can.
Sure, that'll be great.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's so nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too, honey. Be safe, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I see you guys are all still diligently working away. I think I'll go ahead and end for the night then. Hi,
Thank you, Shauna.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming again, coming and playing.
Good to see you. I missed you last week.
Oh, thanks. I thought it would be a nice break for me to take a week off, but I missed it. I really missed it. So we'll try not to have that happen again. Because
I was talking with a friend that everybody needs a break, and if you're doing full-time work and part-time this and trying to keep things rolling, I'm like, bless you, Shauna, go do what you need to do for you. But I did miss you.
Did you hear what I did with my spare time though?
No.
Yes, the fire pit.
Build a fire pit, right? Because
that's
nice.
That's
what we do in our downtime.
But in the heat, how can you do a fire pit?
She's an Ohioan. This is what we do. Oh, I know. Let's go relax. I know. Let's build something. Oh, you know what? That means clean. I've had a great vacation.
I literally moved 4 tons of stuff in a wheelbarrow. I don't even know how many trips with that wheelbarrow because I had to dig up the sod and move all the soil because it's a fire pit. So it's down in the ground. And then, of course, a pit wasn't enough because we live in the country and we have a lot of wind. So if I'm going to have a fire ring, it has to be in the ground so I can have a fire whenever and not worry about burning the field down out behind my house because we're surrounded by farm fields. And I don't think the neighbor would appreciate it if I burned his beans down. That would be bad. But then I decided to go ahead and do a walkway up to it. And then I had to move all the rock and all the brick. And it's lovely, but it was a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Oh, I think you're better off painting than working.
Right? I missed you guys. So when I say I missed you, I really did. I was ready for a vacation from my vacation. But when you get, because again, full-time job and studio, when you get so stressed out about everything and there seems to be no end in sight, manual labor is good. Again, I'm blessed that I don't have to work hard like that every day because I know a lot of people do. But to be able to do something really physically demanding, it felt good. It felt really good.
You sleep better.
Oh man, I don't sleep. Oh, I slept well. I slept really good. So it was enough to turn my brain off for a while. My body was too exhausted to think about anything else.
Yeah.
You need to do the art of living, Shauna. You know, I
What?
did the art of living course last week.
Yeah?
Oh,
Art of
Cool.
living. So, you know, it's through breathing and through meditation. So you get lots of peace of mind and you sleep so well. So last weekend I did that. It was 2.5 hours all the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You'll have to send me information about that. That's interesting, Anita.
Sure, I'll send you, because you know what they are doing, they're offering introductory lectures free for 90 minutes. And then you
Okay.
can decide if you want to join. And right now it's at a good discount, you know.
Yeah,
It's
you'll
okay.
please email me that information. That would be lovely.
Sure, I'll do that. And you know,
Thank
you'll
you.
sleep like a baby.
That would be really nice, because again, I don't sleep well at all. But I'm fortunate in that I'm able, my job that I have in the studio and the way I'm built, I'm able to nap. I love naps. So I'm fortunate in that way. But
That is great.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely I'll send you the email. Actually, I can sleep anytime, you know.
Do you stay asleep though?
Yeah, I do most days. It's
Yeah,
very rarely, you know. Sometimes
I
it
can
happens.
I can sleep anytime, anywhere for about an hour, and then I just wake right up.
No, I can stay awake for long. I have I have that neck.
Well, I feel like we've talked about it now. I feel like I need to take you guys out to the fire pit. All right, let me.
Oh, can you show us a picture if you don't mind?
I'm going to. I'm going to see if I can flip my camera around here. Oh, here we go. All right, out the back door. Because I think there's still day. Oh, there it is.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, it's
I know,
so
I need
beautiful.
My deck is next, so I need
Yeah.
to get my deck done. But then when my deck is done, there's my
Oh my
fire pit.
God.
That's
wonderful.
wonderful.
Isn't that lovely?
Mm-hmm.
Makes me.
Put out nice
makes me
chairs.
happy. Thank you. I just went and got those yesterday, actually.
You know, we should paint your deck, your outside area one day.
We,
Looks
you know, we should, because it's
Beautiful.
lovely. And while we're out here, let's go. I was gonna say let's go see the chickens, but I think the chickens are in bed.
Yeah, it's sleepy time, chicken sleepy time.
It's chicken sleepy time. They're all in bed already.
Yeah.
Maybe when the weather cools off a little bit, I'll have to bring you out and we'll paint in the chicken yard with them. So,
Yeah, and we want to paint your fire pit too. I like it.
Oh.
You're going to have fun in the winter.
oh yeah, when it cools off enough that I can actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, I see people are sending me pictures, so I will go ahead and end there. Let me flip this back around.
Thank you, Shauna.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome, you guys. Thanks, Anita. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks.
So I'll go ahead and end, and I will put up a poll to see what works for next week.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.